Well, thank you, Lauren, for sitting down with me.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
Now, you are Regulatory Affairs Manager for Seeds Canada. Last time we sat down was in Winnipeg in July. There's a lot of discussion here this week at the semi-annual meeting here in Ottawa in regards to the policy arena, SRM task team proposals, your functional framework for a modern seed system, which includes the ISSB, verified seed, all that stuff. It might be hard to pick one thing. I'm sure you deal with many different things in your job, but what's the top thing on your agenda right now?
Well, yes, that's kind of the problem. We have two big portfolios, which is sort of the usual business, the usual policy files, and then of course, because we're in this multi-year CFIA SRM consultation, that is kind of one of the unique files that we have here for until 2025. So I would say the biggest focus has been with SRM and not just looking at the more minor changes we can make to regulation, but how do we set up a system that is future-proof and allows us to have continuous improvement in the regulation so that we don't have to keep doing these sort of large-scale project-type reviews. So that is the basis around the concept of the ISSB, or the Independent Standard Setting Body, and essentially it is to bring together stakeholders across the value chain to sit on an advisory body of sorts to ensure that we do have that continuous dialogue at all times, not just during these large consultations, but to ensure that we can make those incremental improvements to our regulations when they're needed and not 5 or 10 years too late.
Now, you came to Seeds Canada from the grain sector. What's the most surprising thing you've learned since becoming involved in seed, and why has that been notable for you?
So I worked with wheat and barley producers in Alberta, and my focus was research. So I did interact a lot with seed. So while I am a newcomer, I guess, to the pure seed industry, I certainly had a lot of experience, with genetic technologies and that. So in that way, I do sort of know my way around. I have a bit of an idea of the landscape. Most surprising to me, though, is probably just the variation across Canada. I have my wheat and barley lens that I've viewed the world through for the last 9 years. And now I'm learning about different cropping choices beyond the West. So the corn, soy world, and what their unique needs are, and how those crops are handled in a regulatory environment. I don't know that I would say it's surprising, but it's new. It's new to me and something that I need to get comfortable with.
Now, you're heavily involved in the Seed Regulatory Modernization file. A lot of talk about that this week, going over task team findings, things like that. Can you give us a little update on where things are at right now with SRM and in Seeds Canada's view?
So the formal CFIA SRM consultation is scheduled to wrap up in 2025. So that's kind of where we are at today. The process has been broken down into 8 task teams. And those are task teams selected by CFIA and made up of industry members. And they're each tasked with tackling a larger topic under the regulations. So right now we've had 5 of those 8 task teams that have met. 3 have completed their work. 2 are still wrapping up. And then there's 3 groups that have yet to convene. So we've started to take a look at the final reports that have come out of those 3 task teams that have wrapped up, started to sort of break down which specific recommendations Seeds Canada is comfortable with and which specific recommendations we feel we need to provide a bit more context to our members on and potentially form positions on. So despite the fact that Seeds Canada members and staff were a part of task teams, the recommendations that are coming out are not considered to be endorsed by Seeds Canada. We participated, but they're certainly not our policies. So now we're trying to shape our policies so that we can inform members and other stakeholders of our thoughts as they go into the public consultation.
In your view, what's the biggest success or the most exciting thing for you that's coming out of the SRM process?
I am really excited about the potential of the ISSB, the independent standard setting body, or an advisory group to provide feedback and have constant dialogue with the CFIA on policies and regulations in the seed sector. I think having that type of body to drive that continuous improvement is going to go a long way in making sure that we not only sort of catch up to where we need to be and compared to our our international trading partners or competitors, but we shouldn't be satisfied with just catching up. Canada should aspire to be a leader in this space, to be a leader in adopting technology and welcoming innovation, because we're quite far behind in terms of investment in innovation in Canada, unfortunately. And we know that our community is more than willing to adopt innovation. We just have to get that innovation in. So I think having an advisory group to have that constant dialogue, to have a diversity of voices around the table, informing good policy that's going to be progressive and with the focus of moving our industry forward is going to be a huge win if we can get that in place.
Speaking of wins, what about challenges? What's the biggest challenge right now with regard to SRM? These processes are never smooth anytime you're looking at regulation. Is there one stumbling block that you hope to get over?
I think it's a bit of a cliche in these times, but the misinformation is really a barrier. We have a large, diverse agricultural community, and the CFIA wants to hear from everyone, and of course that's their job, to hear from everyone. Unfortunately, not everyone is intimately involved in the seed regulations. Not everyone understands how seed is graded. Not everyone understands how the seed regulations impact what innovation they have access to at the farm gate. So I think one of the biggest barriers is making sure that we all have our facts straight, and not our policies straight, because we're not always going to agree on that. But we need to all have that base level of information, so we're coming to the table from an informed place, and we're all speaking about the same thing. Because even within some of our policies, which I think are straightforward because I've lived and breathed them for the last 7 months, there is a lot of misconceptions, and we need to do our job of cleaning those up.
In regard to SRM, by this time next year, a year from now, your next semi-annual meeting, where are you hoping things will be? What might that look like?
Well, unfortunately, I think we're still going to be talking about SRM at our next meeting. So the process is due to wrap up in 2025, and that's what CFIA has said today. Now, could that change? Of course. I think it would be wonderful if we have an industry consensus that it's important to have multiple voices at a table informing seed regulatory policy, and we can all hold hands on that concept, start to flesh it out, and actually bring it to the CFIA and say, this is what industry wants. Industry doesn't want to do these large resource-intensive reviews. We want to make sure that we're having constant dialogue. We're able to fix the things that need fixing in real time, as opposed to making the list and hoping we can clean it up in 5 or 10 years. So I really hope that we've started to build a consensus on what this advisory group could look like, to approach the CFIA and say, industry wants this.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Thanks for sitting down with me.
Thank you.